two shirts? One costs $12, the other costs $95. The fabric weight is close. The stitching count is comparable. In some cases, they come off the same production line. When we pulled the actual cost sheets, the prime cost difference between a cheap basic and its premium counterpart was less than $7. Everything else, the remaining $60, $70, $80, is not product. It is system. Branding, markup, marketing, perception. Nobody talks about these cheap brands, but what they deliver is gold. The real question is not which shirt is better. It is why you were never supposed to notice. Inside a garment factory on the outskirts of Dhaka, the rhythm of production never truly stops. Long rows of automated sewing machines hum day and night, their needles driving through fabric with mechanical precision. Here, a single shift hands off to the next without pause. Managers speak of 24-hour lines, 3 crews rotating, each responsible for keeping the output steady. Minimum order quantities are not measured in hundreds, but in hundreds of thousands. A basic t-shirt run for a major retailer can reach 500,000 pieces, all cut, sewn, and packed for shipment in a matter of weeks. The scale is staggering. Pallets of cotton blend fabric arrive by the ton, stacked in warehouse bays, ready to be fed into continuous cutting machines. Each workstation is tuned for efficiency. One operator trims cuffs, another inspects seams, a third oversees automated folding. The process is designed for volume, not for show. It is not unusual for a single production line to turn out 20,000 shirts in a single day, each indistinguishable from the last. A floor manager, overseeing the operation, describes the cadence as relentless but necessary. We run 24 hours because the orders demand it. If a buyer wants 500,000 pieces, we cannot afford downtime. The machines, the people, the lights, they are all part of the same rhythm. This relentless pace is what allows cheap brands to keep costs low. The same machinery, the same fabric rolls, sometimes even the same workers, supply both discount and premium labels. The only real difference is whose label goes on at the end and what price gets printed on the tag. What happens on these factory floors is not a secret. It is just rarely discussed. The physical scale, the sheer volume, makes the math of low prices possible. The product did not change, the system did. A $6 t-shirt on the rack is not always a sign of rock-bottom quality. In fact, ultra-low prices often have less to do with fabric or stitching than with the math behind how stores move inventory. Brands use loss leader pricing, selling certain basics at or near cost, not just to make a sale, but to draw people through the door. A plain t-shirt, marked down to the edge of profitability, becomes a traffic driver. Once shoppers are inside, higher margin goods can do the real work of making up the difference. The secret lies in the speed of inventory turnover. Fast fashion chains and discount retailers rely on what is known as the markdown cycle. New arrivals command full price for only a short window, sometimes as little as 2 weeks, before a planned schedule of discounts begins. By the time a shirt hits the clearance rack, its price may have dropped by 40% or more. But because the original order was so large and the sell-through so brisk, even deep markdowns can be absorbed without erasing profit across the season. Clearance is not just a last resort for unsold stock. It is a built-in part of the strategy. Industry studies show that for some chains, 20 to 30% of all sales volume happens at a discount. The margin on these items is razor thin, but the velocity, the sheer number of units sold, keeps the system afloat. Retailers call this the utilization threshold. As long as a certain percentage of inventory moves quickly at full or near full price, the rest can be cleared at a loss without sinking the bottom line. This is why a $6 t-shirt can sit next to a $60 one made from the same blend. The difference is not in the cotton or the cut. It is in the planned markdowns, the engineered traffic, and the relentless push to keep goods moving. You are not paying for quality. You are paying for perception. The product did not change, the system did. On the other end of the spectrum, some brands choose to limit their production runs, sometimes as small as 30,000 to 80,000 pieces per style. This approach trades the brute force of mass manufacturing for a different kind of control. In a small batch operation, every step can be traced: which mill spun the yarn, which dye lot was used, which factory floor handled the cut and sew. A product lead at a mid-market basics brand describes the process as hands-on from the first sketch to the last shipment. The batch size is a deliberate choice, not just a constraint. It means the company can respond to fabric flaws, tweak sizing mid-run, or shift production to a certified facility if needed. Traceability becomes a selling point, and with it comes the ability to publish supply chain details, offer transparent cost breakdowns, and make credible claims about ethical sourcing. But this level of oversight comes at a price. Smaller runs mean factories can't spread their fixed costs, energy, maintenance, line setup across hundreds of thousands of units. The per-unit cost rises. A run of 40,000 shirts might cost 20 to 30% more per piece than a run of 500,000, simply because the factory has to recoup the same overhead over a shorter production window. For the brand, this margin squeeze is absorbed in part by higher retail prices, but also by a willingness to accept lower profits or to invest more in marketing and customer service. There is another trade-off: flexibility versus efficiency. Small batch brands can react quickly to trends or quality issues, but they sacrifice some of the volume-driven cost savings that anchor the cheapest price tags on the rack. The upside is a tighter grip on quality and a story that appeals to buyers who care about where their clothes come from. The downside is that the math of small runs rarely supports true rock-bottom pricing. For shoppers, the difference isn't always visible in the fabric or the fit. It's embedded in the paper trail, batch numbers, audit reports, supplier lists. In these brands, traceability isn't just a buzzword, it's built into the process, and it shows up in the final price. The product didn't change, the system did. Branding isn't just a logo or a clever ad campaign. For direct-to-consumer apparel brands, the cost of being seen and remembered has become a major force shaping the price tag. Every online brand must fight for attention in a crowded digital marketplace. That battle is expensive. In 2024, the average customer acquisition cost for a direct-to-consumer apparel brand sits between $30 and $70 per new customer. Fast fashion startups, driven by viral trends and algorithmic ads, can sometimes squeeze that figure down to $20. But for premium labels, especially those chasing a more selective audience, the price of a single conversion often rises above $50. This is not a one-time fee. Brands must constantly reinvest to stay in front of potential buyers on social feeds, in search results, through influencer partnerships and glossy campaigns. The production of high-quality video, photo shoots, and creative assets alone can add $5 to $15 to every acquisition. Even the most efficient campaigns can't escape the reality that digital advertising costs have climbed steadily year over year, outpacing inflation and eating into margins. But the marketing bill doesn't stop at the first sale. Returns, an unavoidable part of online fashion, bring another layer of overhead. The average reverse logistics cost for a returned item runs between 18 and 25% of its original value. For a $20 t-shirt, a single return can wipe out up to $8 in carrier fees, labor, and repackaging. For higher-priced items, the return cost climbs even further, reflecting higher insurance and more complex inspections. Across the industry, handling returns is not just a logistical headache, it is a silent drain on profits. Brands must budget for this from the start, building a buffer into every price tag. The effect is clear. Shoppers see a simple number, but that number hides a complex web of marketing spend and operational risk. The product didn't change. The system did. A large share of what looks like a premium is actually the price of being found, remembered, and trusted in a world where attention is always for sale. You are not paying for quality. You are paying for perception. A shirt that commands a higher price rarely owes its premium to fabric alone. The real inflection point comes in the details, the time, skill, and certification layered into each piece. In a factory producing for a mass market label, the average worker spends less than 3 minutes from first cut to finished seam on a basic tee. The focus is speed, single needle machines, minimal reinforcement, and a streamlined process that prizes volume above all else. Premium brands, by contrast, often double or triple the labor minutes per garment. Double needle stitching, bar tack reinforcements, and hand finishing at stress points are standard. Each added step means a slower line and a higher wage bill. In a mid-market basics brand, a production director describes the difference this way. We pay for the extra time at every station. A reinforced collar, a tighter seam, a more careful inspection, it all adds up. Certification is another invisible cost. To claim organic cotton or meet environmental standards like GOTS or ISO 14001, brands pay audit and licensing fees that can add anywhere from 15 to 30 cents per shirt. For small runs, that surcharge is even higher. These certifications are not just a stamp, they require annual inspections, paperwork, and sometimes a premium for traceable materials. The sum of these decisions, including extra labor, slower throughput, and compliance fees, pushes the per-unit cost far above what high-volume factories absorb. Yet the result is not always visible on the rack. The product didn't change. The system did. A premium price tag often buys more than the garment itself. For many brands, the sale is just the beginning of a longer relationship, built on promises of repair, replacement, and ongoing support. These post-sale programs are not window dressing. They are a line item in the budget, calculated down to the last cent. Take warranty and repair services. Patagonia, for example, allocates around 2 to 3% of net sales to its worn wear repair program, translating to an average of $2 to $5 set aside per garment. Arc'teryx and REI report similar figures, treating warranty and refurbishment as a core expense, not an afterthought. These programs carry real recurring costs. Every returned zipper, every restitched seam, every replacement button is accounted for in annual financial statements. Brands that offer lifetime repair or generous warranties must maintain dedicated service teams, manage spare parts inventories, and process claims, costs that do not exist for the cheapest labels. For a mid-sized premium brand, the warranty budget can rival or exceed the marketing spend for a single product line. Certification adds another layer. Environmental and quality standards like GOTS or ISO 14001 come with annual audit fees and per-batch surcharges, often amounting to 15 to 30 cents per garment. These are not optional for brands that build their reputation on traceability and ethics. They are baked into the price from the start. The result is a system where a portion of every premium sale funds a future promise that the garment will be fixed, replaced, or certified to a higher standard. The product did not change. The system did. A basic t-shirt, whether it sells for $20 or $120, begins with a similar set of line items. The real difference appears when you break down where each dollar actually goes. In a low-cost, fast fashion model, about 40% of the prime cost covers fabric and trims, roughly $1.30 for a tee. Labor comes next at 30% or just under $1. Freight, factory overhead, and quality control add another 15%, pushing the total prime cost to just over $3. The remainder, about 15%, is allocated to marketing, store-level branding, and the cost of getting the product on the shelf. On the premium side, the percentages shift only slightly. Material and labor still account for about 70% of the prime cost, but the actual dollars rise. Fabric and trims reach nearly $4, and labor is close to $3. Overhead and logistics grow in absolute terms, but remain proportional, while the marketing and brand share stays at 15%. The difference is the scale. Premium brands spend more on each line, but the structure is familiar. The real divergence happens after the prime cost. Fast fashion retailers layer on a wholesale margin of 15 to 20%, then a retail markup of 30 to 40%. For a cheap tee, this means a final price of $20, with the original production cost representing only 16% of what the customer pays. Premium brands, especially those selling direct to consumer, often skip the wholesale step but add a heavier marketing allocation and a higher brand margin. Their shirts reach the shelf at $120, even though the prime cost hovers below $10. At every step, what appears as a price for quality is more often a price for the system that delivers, markets, and maintains the product. The product did not change. The system did. You are not paying for quality, you are paying for perception. A plain white t-shirt, stripped of its label, reveals little to the naked eye. But in a lab, the story unfolds in numbers. Technicians weigh a 10-centimeter square of fabric, logging the result with a digital scale. The low-cost tee registers 130 grams per square meter. Its premium counterpart lands at 200 grams. That difference is not just academic. Higher grams per square meter means denser fabric, better drape, and greater resistance to wear. It is the first objective clue that not all basics are built alike. Next comes the seam. Using a calibrated stitch per inch gauge, the technician counts along a straight hem. 11 stitches per inch on the budget shirt, single needle. 15 on the premium, double needle. In construction terms, that is the gap between a seam that holds and one that splits under stress. Industry teardown studies confirm the link. Increasing stitches per inch from 11 to 15 nearly doubles seam efficiency, raising the threshold for failure from 42% to over 90%. Pilling, the bane of everyday basics, is measured with an AAT C129 drum. After 5 wash cycles, the cheap tee scores a 4. Visible fuzz and moderate surface wear. The premium shirt, treated with mercerization and an anti-pilling finish, rates a 2. The difference is clear under magnification. Longer staple cotton and tighter yarns shed less, keeping the surface smooth after repeated laundering. A lab technician reviewing the KEMA protocol summarizes the verdict. The numbers don't lie. Grams per square meter, stitches per inch, and pilling resistance tell you more about wear and longevity than any price tag. Side by side, the data reveal the real divide. Not every cheap shirt is fragile, and not every premium one is bulletproof. But when price and quality part ways, it is the measured metrics, weight, stitch density, and abrasion that draw the line. The product did not change. The system did. Today, the difference is not the product, it's the system behind it. You're not paying for quality, you're paying for perception. As supply chains converge and price tags diverge, value remains a matter of context, not construction. The product didn't change. The system did. In a market built on image, real discernment starts at the label and ends with what we choose to believe.